All right, guys, welcome into another episode of the Couch Scouts podcast here with my co-host Anthony Bills on this Monday afternoon, almost Monday evening for Anthony down in Texas. But we are talking the AFC West today, and we're talking Rams, we're talking Chargers, we're talking the Super Bowl champion Chiefs, and we are talking the Oakland Raiders. What I say?
He said the Rams. Okay, the Rams.
No, okay.
It's alright. It's so funny.
If we had a 50 states test right now, I think I would probably get about 3 of them right because I cannot get these teams down. I don't know why.
They're West.
Raiders, Broncos, Chargers, and Chiefs in the AFC West. So we're gonna jump right in. We got about 50 minutes to stream, so we're gonna hit just kind of go through each team pretty quickly and talk about just the fantasy values of the teams, what happened in 2019, how the teams are looking in 2020, and then give our picks for the 2020 season. So Anthony, let's start with the Los Angeles Chargers. I can remember that they're in LA. Let's start with the Los Angeles Chargers, who hold I believe it's the 6th pick in the draft. Is that correct? So they are starting out at quarterback. They've made it fairly clear, at least for the moment, that Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starter. I mean, I feel like that happens all the time, and at this point in the seasons when coaches say that he's my starter, and then they go ahead and draft a quarterback. But Tyrod Taylor hasn't played since the beginning of the 2018 season when he went 1-2-1 as a starter for the Cleveland Browns. I think for me, from a fantasy perspective, I think Tyrod Taylor can be a top 25 quarterback, but that at this point I think he's going to have to be playing his best ball to get there. And I mean, he does have some good weapons, but at the same time, we just haven't seen anything out of Tyrod Taylor really since he was in Buffalo. Do you like him as the starter for the season for the Chargers? I think they're going to get a quarterback, but do you like him as at least for the starter?
Yeah, I think it'll depend if they do go, take Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Or if Tua, whoever. If they take one of those quarterbacks, then I think it'll end up kind of like the Baker Mayfield situation where he plays a few games. But I like Tyrod as a quarterback. If he is their quarterback all season, I want it. Obviously, I'm not going to reach for him, but man, if at the value, I don't know what his value is. He probably doesn't have any ADP.
Yeah, not at the moment.
So there you go. I mean, he'll probably be an undrafted quarterback. I would pick him up to be my backup quarterback 100% if it's a one, dynasty. Probably not because he'll probably start this 1 year for the Chargers, and unless he absolutely wows and becomes a Pro Bowler, which I don't think he will.
Yeah,
he'll probably be back to a backup role. But for this 1 year. Hey, I would roll the dice on him. I like Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
He looked really good in Buffalo with no weapons. Cleveland, everybody knew Baker Mayfield was over his shoulder. The ownership wanted Baker Mayfield to get in there, so he never really had a fair chance there. But Tyrod's talented enough with good weapons. He can be a Teddy Bridgewater type,
Yeah.
And he has a little bit of a run game with him as well. So.
Right, that definitely adds value to him, at least his playmaking ability on the ground. It was unfortunate for his situation in Cleveland, Baker coming in after him because he really had been having a decent career in Buffalo despite, like you said, having no weapons. I think one question for at least the running back position with Austin Ekeler, who caught 92 receptions last year, 993 yards through the air, and 8 touchdowns. That was just on the receiving end. When Tyrod Taylor was in Buffalo and he had one of the best receiving backs in LaShawn McCoy, still towards the end of his career, I don't think that McCoy ever surpassed 40 receptions with Tyrod Taylor as a quarterback. Do you feel like Tyrod Taylor being the quarterback hurts Austin Eckler's PPR value at all, at least in the receptions category? Or do you think now that he's kind of that starting running back, he'll make up for it in the run game, actually, not having to share the backfield with Melvin Gordon?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think he'll make up for it a little bit on the run side, but I would definitely probably see a decrease in the receptions just because, like you said, with Tyrod. But Tyrod is the kind of quarterback who does a lot of checkdowns as well. So maybe it's just I don't know. I don't think they're going to drop back 50 times a game like they did with Phillip Rivers either, though,
Yeah.
which gave Austin Eckler a lot of opportunities. Phillip Rivers can't escape the pocket, so let me just throw it to Eckler real quick
Yeah.
and let him do work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, his value, I don't think he'll be a running back 7.
Yeah.
He won't be, but I still see him mid-tier running back. But it's going to be tough. I don't think the 92 catches and 900 yards. I see it maybe come down to 60 in the 60 to 70 range.
Yeah.
And if you add that with 200 carries and almost 1,000 yards, then I would take that.
Yeah. Yeah, I still really like Eckler. I think if you have him on your team, he's still a really good value. He might be a player in the offseason that I'm looking to sell pretty high just based on his current value of 28 20. He's going 28th overall, a third round pick, and I think he's rising based on what he did last year, but also knowing that Melvin Gordon is gone. But I mean, they have Justin Jackson, who they've been really high on every single year of his career. He just never gets into the games and plays. I mean, last year had 29 attempts for 200 yards in the 7 games that he played, but that was all the action that he saw. So
7 yards to carry.
Right. Yeah, he just has to get the opportunities, but I think this backfield is definitely Austin Eckler's for the taking, and I'm excited to see what he does just as the lone back with Melvin Gordon gone. 2 interesting wide receivers for the Chargers. And there was all the speculation about Tom Brady coming to LA to play with these two. And he's still got 2 good receivers in Tampa Bay as well. But Keenan Allen finished as the wide receiver 11 last year, 104 receptions, almost 1,200 yards, a yard shy of that, 6 touchdowns. He's still a third-round draft pick in dynasty leagues. And then Mike Williams, who this actually surprised me so much, 49 receptions for 1,000 yards. And only had 2 touchdowns, but he still finished in the top 40 among wide receivers, averaging 20 yards per catch, which is really impressive. He's definitely that downfield target, and Keenan Allen's the underneath guy. Do you think that the Chargers add another receiver in the draft at some point, just because the class is so deep, or do you think these are the 2 guys that they roll with?
I think they'll add one, but I don't think it's going to be like an eye-popping one,
Yeah.
Maybe KJ Hill late, or
Yeah.
one of those like later round guys, that they know is like just a solid person that they can plug in and play a little bit. But it's definitely going to be these 2 guys, and I know it's not Phillip Rivers, and Tyrod Taylor isn't going to throw the ball over the place, but I still think both of these guys' value is going to be very high.
Yeah.
I think Mike Williams' touchdowns will go up.
Yep.
It should go up, honestly. And Keenan Allen's, like Trent said on the last episode, it's hard to gauge touchdowns, but I would assume Keenan Allen's going to put up similar numbers he does every single year.
Yeah.
He's talented enough to where he doesn't need Phillip Rivers to put up those numbers. So.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I think for both of them, I think for Keenan Allen, you might see the receptions come down, to the 85 range, but I feel like his touchdown upside is still fairly high. 6 touchdowns seems pretty low for a wide receiver 11 season, so I could see him up in that 6 to 7 range, and same with Mike Williams, probably an increase overall, at least in the touchdowns, but receptions for sure. He should be up in that like 65 to 70 reception window. Okay, how about the tight end position? They got Hunter Henry back. Franchise tagged him for another year. He finished as the tight end 8 despite playing 8 games in 2019. 55 receptions, 652 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I think for me, I really like Hunter Henry. I think he's a great tight end, but I think if anyone is affected by the departure of Phillip Rivers, I feel like it will be Hunter Henry the most, just because Phillip Rivers was check down Charlie to Hunter Henry all the time, and he really benefited from it. And it is a player who fails to stay on the field usually for an entire season. So with Phillip Rivers and that connection, he's able to produce to where you still are getting value despite him only playing 12 games. But I feel that's my concern is can he stay on the field for a full season and still perform despite some expected regression. What do you think about him for 2020?
Yeah, that's definitely I'm with you on that. But I look at Tyrod Taylor's season in Buffalo. I think was 2016. I think he had 20 touchdowns for over 3,000 yards, and his number one guy that year was Charles Clay, his tight end.
Yeah.
So I agree with you because of the Phillip Rivers aspect. We know how he was with Antonio for years, and Hunter Henry has taken over.
Yes.
So, and let's be honest, Hunter Henry compared to Charles Clay, Hunter Henry's on another level. So,
yeah,
I agree. I think that he could potentially fall off, but I think the potential is that he still stays on that same because Tyrod Taylor has proven in the past that he actually likes to use the tight end a lot.
Yeah.
So it'll be tough, but I still would probably think Keenan Allen and Mike Williams might have a better chance, but I think Hunter Henry could still get quite a bit of love from Tyrod.
Okay, that's a good point. Before we move on to the next team, there's 3 tight ends who are being taken after Hunter Henry as far as ADP goes. TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant, and Darren Waller. When you hear those 3 names, would you prefer any of those 3 over Hunter Henry for 2020? For me, Waller, I'm like I would love to have him in the 7th round, but Hunter Henry has proved to be a great tight end. So what do you think?
That's tough. If it's for 2020, I would probably roll Hunter Henry one more year.
Yeah.
If we're talking dynasty, I'm probably take Noah Fant.
Yeah.
Because Noah Fant struggled to start last season, and then when Drew Lock got inserted, Noah Fant and Drew Lock looked like Brady and Gronk.
Yeah.
They were just for like a few weeks straight. They were just dominating. So Henry.
Yeah, that's good. I think Noah Fant is definitely my favorite of those 4 names. I really like Noah Fant.
Highest ceiling, I think.
Yeah, the highest ceiling. Darren Waller had I think he had tight end 2 or tight end 4 season last year, but he's also he's older, and he's got
go ahead, sorry.
He's got a couple of tight ends just behind him as well that could just take away some targets. So.
That's what I was going to say. Jason Witten is a touchdown target machine, and now Jason Witten is there, so it's like might steal some touchdowns from Waller.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the AFC West, Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl 2019 champions. At quarterback, obviously the name of the franchise, Patrick Mahomes, finished as the QB8 in 2019, ADP of 23 overall, 2nd round pick. 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He only played in, I believe it was 14 of the 16 games. I think he missed 2 weeks and then had the bye week in there as well with the knee injury. So I think I don't know that he would have finished quarterback 1 or 2, but I think he would have been up in the maybe 4 or 5.
He would have been behind Lamar, Dak, and then probably, Russell Wilson?
Yeah, maybe he might have been right up there with Russ.
Top 5, though, for sure.
Yeah. Not a ton to talk about with Mahomes because we talked about him so much on this show. He's our consensus number 1 quarterback, and he should be. He's a top 3 fantasy quarterback in all leagues, redraft or dynasty leagues. I mean, when he's going 2nd round in dynasty leagues, that just tells you how much people value him for what he brings to the franchise. But at running back, I feel like this is where, I mean, when you look at some of these names here, Damian Williams, Darwin Thompson, Darrell Williams, DeAndre Washington, there's a lot of D&Ws in there, and Elijah McGuire. It just seems like a mess as far as the running back position goes, and it seemed really clear that the Chiefs could use a draft pick to get a running back, but now they sign DeAndre Washington, and they got Elijah McGuire. It seems like that's some significant money to pay in order to bring in a rookie, specifically with their salary cap position. Do you think that they just roll with this squad for 2020 and kind of wait and feel it out and maybe make a trade later on, or do you still think that they could target one of these running backs?
I think if one of the running backs that they really really like Dobbins, if he's still available when they can pick, I don't see how they don't just pull the trigger on it.
Yeah.
I could also see them, going maybe defensive side of the ball in that first round.
Yeah.
And then seeing if one of the other backs that are still not Dobbins, Swift, or any, you never know with running backs. There's potential that Swift, Dobbins, Taylor all fall into the second round.
Yeah.
It's not a guarantee that either of the three go in the first round. They're all first round talents, but you just never know with running backs. So it just depends how the draft plays out. I think if running backs are falling and the Chiefs are like, hey, I know we spent money on a couple of these guys to come in, but let's go get our rookie stud right now.
Yeah.
That we know we won't have to pay for 4 years. He'll be our running back for 4 years. We can play Mahomes, and we have it, and we could get rid of some of these other guys.
Yeah.
So that because, you can keep having running back by committee, but at some point you still want a guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I think the Chiefs benefited in the playoffs by the committee, and it worked out for them. But I think that's where they struggled throughout the season was just the run game. And they're still fine with the talent that they have at wide receiver and quarterback. But when you're the Super Bowl champions and you don't have a running back that finished in the top 30, even top 40, that's pretty surprising. But I mean, Damian Williams did turn it on in the playoffs. I think he had he had 2 or 4 touchdowns throughout the playoffs, and so he came into his own. But he is an aging running back, and Darwin Thompson hasn't taken the lead on the opportunities that he's gotten. So I mean, if some of those running backs fall in the second or third round, I definitely would be more inclined to it. But I guess we'll find out on Thursday what the situation's looking like. Any chance that the Jaguars swap Sammy Watkins for Leonard Fournette?
Oh man, I hope not.
Some contract space.
Yeah, I hope not. Oh my gosh, is that a fair trade? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I mean, depends on the. I'd have to look at the contract situation to see.
I think Sammy has 1 more year.
Yeah.
And then Fournette is like McCaffrey. He's coming into his contract year. So.
Yeah.
So they're both playing on their final year of their deal.
Right.
But Sammy's is more money, I believe. Well, maybe not because Leonard Fournette was top 10 pick.
Yeah. But I know Watkins is
up
up there.
That would be great for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
It's great for the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so at the wide receiver position, Tyreek Hill finished as the wide receiver 28 last year. 58 receptions, 860 yards, 7 touchdowns, and he only played in 12 games. This guy is a speed freak. Holy cow. Every time I watch him, I'm like, there's no way he's going to get away from these guys, and then somehow he does it. He surprises every time. ADP of 9.83 overall, so he's a first-round pick. You like Tyreek Hill going into 2020?
Yeah, I think I would. Honestly, the way I'm looking at it now and the way the Chiefs are, I mean, he was hurt. If he wasn't hurt, he's up there in the top 10.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like this year, I think I would take him right behind Michael Thomas.
Wow.
He just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
And man, it doesn't matter. You could be one of the best lockdown corners in the league. You're not fast enough.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not fast enough. You can't keep up with him. He's so good. And him and Mahomes, they just have that connection that's just like insane.
Yeah.
So many times when Mahomes is running around and just flings one up deep, it's always Tyreek Hill. Always Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
So I love Tyreek Hill. He's going to be a top 5 wide receiver 100% if he stays healthy.
Yeah. Maybe
put up even the best numbers of all. He won't have the receptions that Michael Thomas has, but
yeah,
the yards and the touchdowns, they're always there with him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you look what he did in the Super Bowl, and like him and Mahomes had that game-changing play I think it was third or fourth quarter, and that's what he can do. And I love that the Chiefs also, they don't just, he's not just a Deshaun Jackson. They also love to get him the ball just real quickly,
quick
slants, and just see what he can do. And even looking at his 12 game stats, even if he only played 14 games, he still could have surpassed 1,000 yards. Could have been up there close to 10 touchdowns. So his ceiling is, as long as he's paired with Patrick Mahomes, as long as Mahomes is healthy, his ceiling is so high, so high. How about Sammy Watkins, who had 3 touchdowns, I think, the first game of the season, and then finished as the wide receiver 52. He's a 12th round pick, so he's definitely fallen, I think, since the beginning of the season. But he still put up 52 receptions for 673 yards. I feel like the Chiefs believe in Sammy Watkins because they kept him. They restructured his deal. He was willing to restructure it as well. He obviously wants to be there, to win. But I don't know. What do you think for his 2020 season? Do you think he finds the end zone again?
I think he does. I don't understand. It was so frustrating, obviously, because I had a front row seat. He was, for the longest time, he was my number one receiver on the crappy dynasty team that I picked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously after week 1, I was so excited. And he still got the receptions, 52 is not the greatest, but that's not bad. He was a wide receiver 3 pretty much all year because McCall Hardman and who was the other guy that they're always throwing to?
Demarcus Robinson.
Yes, Demarcus Robinson, McCall Hardman, Tyreek Hill. I'm like, there's so much, but Sammy was always he was on the field a lot. He was reliable. I think his numbers will improve. I personally like McCall Hardman going into this year more.
Yeah.
Just because Sammy's getting older and McCall's the quicker one. I was really hoping when DeAndre Hopkins was talking about earlier in the season before he got traded, talking about Sammy Watkins coming back to solidify their Clemson trio with Deshaun. So
wow. Yeah.
Maybe, but I still like Sammy. But I'm not gonna. If 12th round value, sure, why not? But I'm not gonna take him any earlier than that. I don't think. I just because we have to see touchdowns improve.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that. 12th round for me is even still a little bit high. He was really, really good with Buffalo and just really hasn't found his place in Kansas City. A couple guys that are going around that same round, James Washington, Hunter Renfrow, John Ross, Golden Tate. I think those are all 4 of those names.
Yeah.
I would be more interested in them just because I know I'm going to get a little bit more consistency.
Right.
But yeah, same thing. McCall Hardman finished as the wide receiver 49 last year, and I was really excited. I bought a lot of shares of him heading into 2020, and then because I was expecting Watkins to not be back, and I feel like this doesn't hurt Hardman as much, but it definitely just caps his ceiling, at least for 2020, and owners kind of have to wait another year until 2021 when we'll really be able to see what he does. But this guy was a touchdown machine, 26 receptions and 6 touchdowns, 538 yards. So I got him in a couple leagues, and I was able to just plug him in pretty much every week because he had a really high touchdown upside. But I don't think you can go wrong with either of these 3 receivers, but definitely Tyreek Hill and Hardman have the most fantasy value in the long run. I would say. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%, yeah. But I'm looking. Okay, so Sammy Watkins isn't old. I'm sorry, I said he was getting old. He's 26, man.
Okay, yeah.
He's been in the league for 6 years.
That's right, because he came in when he was like 21 or 22, I think.
Yes, I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, he's only 26, so he's not that old yet. But yeah, his first year with Kansas City was worse than the year he just had. So he actually improved this season.
Wow.
So hopefully he improves again next season. But yes, I'm McCall Hardman all day.
Yeah. Okay, and then wrapping up the Chiefs is the tight end position. Travis Kelce, tight end one last year. I felt like it was a quiet tight end one type season, but he had 97 receptions, over 1,200 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's a third round draft pick right now. He's the number one tight end off the board, and I think that's a pretty good spot for him. If you're going to go out and get one of the top tight ends, I wouldn't take them in round 1 or 2, but if you want a Kelce or a Kittle, you pretty much have to reach at that third round because that's where they're gonna go. I honestly felt like it was a down year for Travis Kelce, and he still was the tight end one. So I know he actually is one player that's getting older, and you start to question how much longer can his physical play remain at its high level. But I mean, he keeps doing it consistently year in and year out, and he's playing with the best quarterback in football right now. So he's got a lot of upside. Do you like Travis Kelce in redraft and dynasty leagues for 2020 again?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, until he shows regression, I mean, why not? You see guys like Jason Witten. He's probably another 10 years. Kelce still has another 10 years if he's like Witten.
Yeah.
So I mean, and Witten is putting up numbers and touchdowns for years. So absolutely. I think I like Kittle better, but you can't go wrong with either one.
Yeah.
I like Kittle better because he's the main target for San Fran. You know?
Yeah.
There's so many guys here that Mahomes spreads it out to, but to still have 97 catches, that's amazing. But the touchdowns, I would expect the touchdowns to go up though.
Yeah.
So probably be tied in one again, honestly.
Yeah. I think I'd be surprised if he hit 97 receptions again. Just because you talk about Tyreek Hill missing 4 games and the inconsistencies with the running backs and Watkins, but kind of similar to Hunter Henry. They love to get Travis Kelce the ball and check down to him as well, so he's going to get targets, and I agree. I think he'll be tied in one again as well. Okay, so moving on to the AFC West, obviously the AFC West, the Denver Broncos. Drew Lock at quarterback finished as the QB 37, and he played just 5 games, but he had 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 60% completion percentage, and 1,000 yards. This is a guy that I really like in dynasty leagues for sure. I think in redraft leagues, I'm just waiting and seeing how he develops because we didn't really get a clear sample size of him last year. Just kind of got thrown into it towards the end of the season. But when you talk about adding Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, you got Courtland Sutton and Noah Fant, and then potentially one of these
Ruggs.
Yeah, Henry Ruggs, one of these top receivers. They're surrounding him with weapons, and he's got a great opportunity to really grow this year in 2020. So in the 16th round, I'm really comfortable taking him there and using him most likely as my QB2 and just kind of seeing how he progresses. But what's your take on Drew Lock?
Yeah, I'm not a huge believer in him just yet, just because it seems like Denver is always searching for a quarterback. So I just feel like Denver's kind of like Cleveland, where it's like, yeah, you're not going to get one. I'm sorry, they're just not going to pan out.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you said, the potential, the 60% completion is kind of low.
Yeah.
He has a big arm. That is one thing, but the accuracy's got to be better. But again, he was a rookie. It's 5 games. The weapons that he has, there's no excuse. I mean, you're going into year 2. You're the guy now. Let's see it. I'm with you. If I already have a quarterback, I should hopefully have a quarterback by the 16th round.
Yeah.
And I can maybe take him, as my backup, because there is upside. I don't like it. I don't like him at all. Not at all. I don't like him that much. So I mean, I don't have a huge upside for him, but I know, just if you look around the league and all this, I'm like, he's a potential young quarterback that could have some good upside in the future. So yeah, I would buy some stock in him to place on my bench and see how he pans out for sure.
Yeah. Okay, running back position. We had a little debate with a nice Instagram follower. This was already probably a month ago, but I think it's pretty clear if you just look at the ADP between Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay already, that the consensus is that Melvin Gordon is the back to own. He's at 53 overall, 5th round pick, and Phillip Lindsay is all the way down to 121 now in the 10th round. And Yes, granted, Phillip Lindsay had a better season last year than Melvin Gordon, but Melvin Gordon also played in 4 less games than Phillip Lindsay, and I mean he is
No
by
training camp.
he's what'd you say?
With no training camp.
With no training camp, yeah. So he comes in and just, I mean, he looked like he didn't miss a beat. You know, the first couple games, a little shaking off a little bit of rust, but then he got right back into it with LA. So he comes over to Denver, and I think I don't think it like helps the value of either one. I think what they had in LA was special with Ekeler and Gordon both being able to be successful, but I wouldn't say that this helps Melvin Gordon, that he's going to be even better. I think he's just going to be similar to what he did in 2019. I mean, he'll be better with the stats, obviously, playing in more games, but I wouldn't expect him to have like a career season, because I think that they still do like Phillip Lindsay. He'll be in there as well to spell him, but I'll definitely take Melvin Gordon in the 5th round. Any thoughts on the running?
I'm sorry. I just got an email through and it was so loud in my head. So I'm sure that.
No, I didn't hear it.
Okay, I was like, oh no. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. You just covered it. Melvin Gordon's the back to own here.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I personally think he's going to take 75% of the snaps.
Yeah.
He's the more talented back. Yeah, Phillip Lindsay's been a nice story, but hey, when somebody better than you comes in, I'm sorry, they're just better than you.
Yeah.
And I think he'll end up being the main guy. And yeah, not a career year, but I think he'll be back to a normal Melvin Gordon year.
Yeah.
You know, like he used to be. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think I listed on here Royce Freeman. I think that he gets hurt the most. He's kind of getting pushed out of the window in Denver, and I mean, granted, he just hasn't been able to take advantage of the opportunities. But wide receivers, Courtland Sutton last year kind of broke out, finished as the wide receiver 17, 72 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He's a 3rd-round pick right now, so in dynasty leagues, people are really, really high on him for his age and just what he's been able to do, I guess, specifically in the Denver offense, which hasn't been great over the last couple of years. But then, you know, there's Deshaun Hamilton out of Penn State, who hasn't really done a whole lot since his time in Denver. And then there's that rookie landing spot, like we talked about. Would you say that Ruggs, you feel like, is the best fit here in Denver, or is there another wide receiver that you'd like to see be in Denver?
Yeah, I don't think Ruggs is necessarily the best fit, but that's where everybody keeps slotting him. So I'm just gonna roll with that too.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's meant to be. And I mean, you know, he can. Courtland Sutton isn't really a burner, you know.
Yeah.
So he can provide the speed, the yard after catch type of guy, to balance it out, because Deshaun Hamilton hasn't been that.
Right.
So yeah, I guess Ruggs probably would. I think Jerry Jeudy would be the best fit, but he's not going to be there. So,
Yeah.
So I'll say Ruggs, yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. I think I'd really like to see Ruggs. I could honestly see the Broncos getting at least 2 receivers out of this class. Maybe a Ruggs, and then waiting, you know, and getting one late in the 3rd round or 4th round, who, you know, because this is a pretty deep class. They're saying that this could be one of the deepest wide receiver class of all time. So, you know, there's so much value there that you can honestly wait and still get some really good receivers towards the end of the draft, or at least in the later rounds. Just because, like you said, we haven't seen Deshaun Hamilton do anything, and then they have Tim Patrick there as well, who we haven't seen a lot of production from as well. I know they have some other positions that they need to shore up as well, so it'll be interesting. But definitely, they got to get one of those top tier wide receivers for sure.
Yeah, I think with you mentioning 2 receivers, a receiver that I know nobody's really talking about, and it pains me to say it, but Donovan Peoples-Jones is from Michigan, and this dude, I know when Ohio State was playing Michigan, Urban Meyer was talking about him. He's like, this kid could be a top 10 draft pick.
Yeah.
But he obviously came out early, and I don't blame him. You know, Michigan the last few years it's just not getting to where they want. So if they can snag, Ruggs and then Donovan Peoples-Jones third, fourth round, because the talent that this dude has, I don't like Michigan football, but I know that dude is a stud.
Yeah.
And the one thing that scared me when Ohio State played Michigan, I was like, they have NFL wide receivers all over the place, just like Ohio State does. So I'm like, so that's just another name that would be great in this offense. He's very similar to Courtland Sutton.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's going to be a good pro. We kind of talked about it a couple episodes back. Just Michigan has really good defenders that come into the draft, but they have failed to actually put some really good offensive talent into the NFL. But I feel like he might be the exception and kind of break that streak for the Wolverines.
Yeah.
We talked about Noah Fant. I think he's great in this offense. It was pretty clear. I think in the first game of the season when I think he had like the first 4 touches in the Bronco offense, and one of them was a rushing attempt that was like, okay, they like this guy and they want to use him a lot. And he's a freak athlete, big size, big frame. He was great at Iowa, and I mean last year 40 receptions, 562 yards, and 3 touchdowns, which put him as the tight end 16. I think we will see throughout his career him just continuing to climb up this ladder amongst the tight end ranks. I would expect for him to be a top 10 tight end in 2020, assuming that he stays healthy. Where would you project him as for this season?
Yeah, I'm the same. I think tight end 10 is like the lowest that he'll be.
Okay.
Honest, just because I mean, there's no more Flacco. Flacco was so bad at the start of the year, and I honestly thought that was going to be a blessing for Noah Fant.
Same.
Because of what he used to do with why can't I think of his name? For Baltimore, his career ended very quickly because of injuries. Oh well, it doesn't matter. But Flacco and him were so good together.
Yeah.
In Baltimore, and then it just didn't work. But yeah, he's just a freak athlete. He runs like a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And he's so good. So, and him and Drew Lock were just really good together. So I love Noah Fant.
Yeah. Okay, so last team in the AFC West is the Raiders. Oh, we got the Broncos logo is somehow on the screen. My bad.
It's all good.
Yeah. Okay, so we got Derek Carr, who was QB 17 last year, ADP of 240, which, I mean, this is crazy to me because I have always loved Derek Carr as a quarterback, but I feel like people are so down on him, saying like that he's just terrible for the Raiders organization. But he finished as the 17th best quarterback, 4,000 yards passer. I mean, he didn't throw a lot of touchdowns, but he also didn't throw a lot of interceptions, and 70% completion percentage. So he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He might not be the biggest playmaker for the Raiders, but I think that he does just fine. But they did bring in Marcus Mariota from the Titans, and we've kind of seen what he's been able to do in Tennessee throughout his career. There's also been talk of them drafting a quarterback. So I guess given your thoughts, I think Derek Carr will be the starter regardless to be in the 2020 season, but who would you foresee being the starter at the end of the 2020 season?
I think Derek Carr, because I think they're going to finally get him. I think they're going to do right by him and give him a wide receiver this year. The Antonio Brown thing didn't work out. They got him Josh Jacobs, and that's working out. Josh Jacobs is a stud. Tyrell Williams is a good wide receiver, but I don't want Tyrell Williams being my number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
So the Raiders, I know one of my Raiders fans said that there's a lot of rumors about them trading up to go try and get Herbert or Tua, and there's other needs, man. You can win with Derek Carr. He showed it. You can win with him. You took Amari Cooper away from him, and then you cut Antonio Brown, which obviously, give the man some help.
Yeah.
Don't trade up and draft a quarterback. If you're going to trade up and draft Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
Or they'll fall to you where you're at. Because where are they? 12?
I think 11 or 12.
Exactly.
12. Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb are both going to be there. Pick one.
Yeah.
Roll him to be your number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
Just do it. Give this man some help. Derek Carr is talented. He was an MVP candidate a couple years ago. That year that the Raiders were number one or number two seed.
Yeah.
So just give the man some help. I think Derek Carr is going to have a huge year if they get him another wide receiver. I do. Because I believe in him just like you do. 70% completion is great. 21-8 touchdown interception ratio. Not bad. It's average, but he can do better with more weapons.
Yeah. Okay, how about the running back situation? We have Josh Jacobs, who had a really good rookie season for the Raiders in 2019. I think he played in, it was 15 games. He missed one game with a shoulder injury, but they still gave him the ball 242 times, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, and he had 20 receptions as well. And from the word on they want to get him more involved in the pass game, from what it sounds like, and they kind of eased him in his rookie season. But Jalen Reagor is also there, re-signs, I think, on a 2-year contract, you don't just pay a guy money that you're not going to use. So he'll definitely, I think, still get his share of the passing targets. But I love Josh Jacobs as a Raider. I think he really fits their style well. And I think he'll be I think he was the running back 14, I want to say. In
what it looks like.
Yeah, I think it was the 14, if I remember correctly. I could see him being a top 10 running back in 2020. I think just another year under his belt, he'll be even better.
You feel it's very similar to Zeke. The rookie year, everything. Like, when he was drafted by the Raiders, it was just like, oh, this is a perfect fit, just like when Zeke was drafted by the Cowboys. And then you saw them their rookie year, and they're like, yep, they're here. They're already one of the top backs in the league. Like, it's a perfect fit. I love Josh Jacobs. He's just going to keep getting better and better.
Yeah. Jalen Reagor, what we just mentioned, he was the running back 66 last year. He doesn't have any ADP data, so he's going undrafted. But I think this is a player that's fine to pick up as a fantasy free agent and just to target really late in drafts, just because he is the clear, handcuff running back to Josh Jacobs. And if he were to go down with injury, he's not a great running back per se, but he is a good receiving back. So his upside's in the run game. We know what he is as a pass catcher, and he could potentially get some more carries and maybe some touchdowns, which he didn't. He failed to score in 2019. So I think that he's a decent running back to at least own later in the drafts, or if you're in a pretty deep league, he's a good name to target. But then you mentioned, the wide receiver position that the Raiders are in. They have Tyrell Williams, Hunter Renfrow, and then they went and signed Nelson Aguilar. They traded for Zay Jones last year. There's a couple other names on there as well. They have some depth. Marcel Aitman, he's in there as well. But I think Tyrell Williams and Renfrow, they're going to be on the field in 2020. I'm not sold on Zay Jones or Nelson Aguilar at all for 2020, just based on what they've been able to do or lack thereof throughout their career. I think Nelson Aguilar I would take over Zay Jones, because Aguilar fits in well to a system where he doesn't have to be the wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. He's a decent wide receiver 3, and with Philadelphia, the injuries, they just get piling up, and he would consistently be moved all over the field. And so if he can find a spot where he can just consistently play in, I think he could have some success. But like you talked about, go and get a Jerry Jeudy, a CeeDee Lamb, one of these big name wide receivers. It's worth it, because you think about Derek Carr, 21 touchdowns, 4,000 yards, and that was without the man that they literally moved worlds around to get on their team. And that's Antonio Brown that we're talking about. And, he would have been so much better had he been on the field. So I think just getting the Raiders some offensive help would be great. What do you think? Any of the wide receivers that you like at their current ADP or that you would draft?
Oh, Tyrell Williams all day. 18th round?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, dude. Heck yeah, I would take him all day.
Yeah.
The 18th round, that's a steal, man. Like, yeah, he's not a wide receiver 1. but he's playing in a wide receiver one role for now. So
Yeah.
I would expect his catches to go up, and the touchdowns will probably be the same. Honestly, you know, I can rely. I think I can rely on Tyrell Williams to give me 6, but yeah, and Renfro. I mean, just knowing him from college, I really like him. You know, he has a lot of potential to be a Cole Beasley, Julian Edelman type in this league.
Right.
So I mean, that's a pretty successful rookie year right there for a guy that was drafted kind of late. So I think both of those guys, that's very good value. You know, who did we just talk about on? The Sammy Watkins range, right?
Yeah.
Sammy Watkins is 12th round.
12th round, yeah.
Honestly, this Hunter Renfrow and Tyrell Williams, I'd probably put both of them in front of him.
Yeah.
Just because of the upside that they potentially have, and Sammy's just not showing it lately.
I think they both finished ahead of him last year in stats, anyways.
Yeah, they both had more touchdowns, that's for sure, because he only had 3.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I really like I like Tyrell Williams, especially at the value. I mean, he got off to a really hot start last year and was great. And then, you know, it's just hard to consistently be a wide receiver one when that's not necessarily your forte. But when you look at what he did with the Chargers, when they had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, he was still in there. Despite being slotted as the wide receiver 2 or 3, he was still in there making plays all season long.
Yeah. And I'm not fully ready to give up on Nelson Aguilar yet either.
Yeah.
What you said was perfect. Last year was so rough in Philadelphia. Whatever wide receiver you were, it didn't matter. It was just going to be tough.
Yeah.
The guy he had so many targets, and I'm telling you, I don't think he's going to continue to drop balls at that alarming rate. A lot of the drops he had were touchdowns that were wide open, and those are just flukes, man. That's not a bad player. You don't make it to the NFL if you suck.
Right.
You know, those are just fluke drops that just happen. I guarantee. Like, you know, it's like, oh, are you kidding me? That's not going to stay the same. I mean, he'll probably drop passes, but if he has those same wide open touchdown catches that he didn't make last year, I guarantee you he makes them this year. You know?
But I agree wholeheartedly. I like Nelson Aguilar a lot. I'll target him in dynasty leagues, and you know, people are willing to ship off some, you know, 3rd, 4th round picks for him. I'll take him over some of those rookies that you can get in the 3rd or 4th round. Okay, so let's wrap it up with the tight ends. Darren Waller was the tight end 4. His ADP is 83, 7th round, which is really good. Is really good value, but also remembering he was in Baltimore for I think it was 3 or 4 years, so he is older than a majority of these young tight ends. But he had 90 receptions, almost 1,200 yards last year, and surprisingly only 3 touchdowns. And what you talked about. Jason Witten comes in, and he is a red zone target for sure. And then the rookie that they had last year, Foster Moreau, I think he had 5. I didn't get his stats. I think he had 5 touchdowns, and they were all in the red zone. And so, it's interesting to project that Darren Waller is going to get another 90 receptions, but it's also hard to say just because Derek Carr he likes to target these other tight ends, and adding Witten in there as well, who is going to be playing on the goal line. It could hurt his value, so that might be why his ADP is low, just because people, he was kind of a one-hit wonder, and they're wondering if he can do it again. But I mean, I will gladly wait until the 7th round to draft Darren Waller as my tight end 1. Just, especially in redraft leagues, if people want to go ahead and spend the early investment on Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, Kittle, I'll go ahead and wait a little bit on Waller and get the tight end 4, and then get some other, positional players before that. What are your thoughts on tight ends?
I'm looking at his career, man, and he had 10 catches, 2 catches, and 6 catches.
Yeah.
Into last year. That's insane.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I'm kind of with you where I'm like, oh man, is he going to do this again?
Yeah, right.
But I think he showed that he's their clear tight end number 1. So I think John Gruden loves him.
Yeah.
So yeah, if 7th round, I think it's good value. I personally might take, a Noah Fant in that 7th round, just because I think Noah Fant's going to have more opportunities to score touchdowns than Darren Waller, because Noah Fant Jeff Hireman and Jake Butt. Hireman and Butt, they're never healthy, so it's Noah Fant only. But yeah, you can't go wrong with Darren Waller in the 7th round.
Right. Yeah, I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I remember it. I think it was during Hard Knocks last year when there was just so much focus on Darren Waller, and that's when I even found out who this guy was, and I just started looking in all of my leagues, and he was available in almost every single one, and just adding him, and he blew up, and good for him too. He's a good comeback story in the NFL, and it's just exciting to see a guy make plays again, because that's what his potential was. So I like the Raiders for 2020. Let's just real quickly go through our picks for to win the division in 2020, starting with I guess the 4th spot again. So we got the Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, and LA Chargers. I'm gonna go. Gosh, that's close. I'm gonna go Chargers in the 4th spot.
Same. I agree. I'm Chargers. As much talent as they have, I don't know. I don't know if I can trust Tyrod Taylor to win that much, even though he did in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Been a few years, so.
Yeah, you lose a Pro Bowl quarterback like Phillip Rivers, and there's just not enough certainty to say what this team is going to be.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 spot. I'll go Raiders.
I'm going to go Denver.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the Raiders are much better in 2020 than 2019, but I still think they got some things to figure out, just offensively and on the defensive end for sure. But they're definitely getting better. I think it'll be a close race between Denver and Oakland for that spot. How about you?
Yeah. I think the move to Las Vegas is just going to be too hype for them to finish bad. So I think they'll at least sneak up in a bit. They're going to win some games in Vegas because they're going to be living there, and teams are going to come in there and they're going to come into the game hungover or something.
Yeah.
So it's free wins for them at home.
Yeah, I like that.
No, I just love John Gruden. I expect Derek Carr to have a big year.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so then you'll go
Raiders number 2.
Raiders 2. I'll go Broncos 2, and Chiefs number 1
Chiefs,
overall.
100%.
Excellent.
Easy.
Nice.
16-0.
There we go.
Just kidding.
I hope
All
so.
right.
Well, that was it for the AFC West fantasy preview. We will be back shortly for the NFC. For the the NFC West and the talking the 49ers. So thanks for tuning into this episode. As always, you can follow us on Instagram and on YouTube and Apple and Spotify podcasts, and we will catch you guys on the next episode.